Good morning and welcome from the UK. Sorry, I am just a minute or two late. I was having phone stand problems. Now, having phone stand problems is a historic thing for me on stamp camps. At least it hasn't fallen apart this time. The first stamp camp we ever did, my phone stand snapped just as we went live, and I had to get my husband to come in and be my phone stand. He's not here this morning, so luckily I'm not needing him to come in and be my phone stand this morning. But do come on in, do say hello, and it is lovely to be here with you in the UK and joining you. Good, I've got somebody saying good morning, so that means I'm live. Having somebody joining you, having you join me on this stamp camp morning. It's 10 o'clock in the morning here in the UK, and it is lovely to see you. Okay, right, I'm going to, without too much further ado, bring in my downward facing camera. Let me just quickly flash. If you are ever looking for me, this is where you'll find me, Love-a-Duckie.co.uk, and I go under the name of Love-a-Duckie wherever you're looking for me, really. So yeah, do look out for that. But let's bring in the downward facing camera and let's see how we get on this morning and see if we can have a smooth morning of card making with you on this stamp camp. Now we've got gold foil on the top there, so instantly that is sort of clashing with my light. But this is the card that you may have already made. I know some of you have already made cards, or you will do when you get round to making the cards from your tutorial. So this is the card that is part of your make and takes and your bundle that you had with all your tutorials. Now we have a bit of a tale to tell about the card that I'm going to make with you this morning, because I made my card ready to go onto the blog post and all sorts of things with what I was going to make this morning. And it is this card just here that went up on the blog post. So it has a bit of a belly band on it, and you open it out and you've got this sort of lifty up card, this sort of effect with this sort of card that comes out and lifts up like this. And then the belly band comes on the top to keep it all together. And then the blog post went live and there was a bit of a panic because there are two very similar cards on that blog post, which meant there were going to be two very similar cards today. So I said, okay, I'm going to put this to one side, and you will find details of this particular card coming up on my blog in the next little while, and I'll perhaps give you a flags up when that is there. So if you do want to make this different alternative to this card, and I found us a different card to make this morning so that you've got something a little bit different to make with your lovely bundle of stuff. So we're actually going to be creating this card, this fan accordion card this morning. So sort of very Art Deco-y look to it, using some of those gorgeous papers, foil papers. Foil never works very well with cameras, does it? So we've got foil papers in the background here and across the front, and some gold foil in there, as well as some die cuts and things. So that is the card that we're going to be making today, and it's got a bit of a panel on the back that you can write your message on. In terms of envelope, you might get away either a 5x7 envelope, or you're going to want to go 6x6. So yeah, whichever works best, really. But you are going to need, it's not going to fit in a standardized envelope either. It would need to be a 5x7 that it should fit in, or a 6x6, depending on what you've got in your stash and what works best. So let's put that to one side. I've got a pile of things, card here, that I've cut out. I haven't done any die cutting, but I have got my card cut to size. This piece of pecan pie just here we don't need. Let's move that to one side. So you are going to need two pieces of basic black card, because you're not going to be able to get both of these pieces out of one sheet. But the good news is that you'll be able to take these pieces out of two sheets of black cardstock, and you'll have enough black cardstock left over in each sheet to create 2 card bases. One will be a 10-fold and one will be a book fold. So I've taken 2 sheets of black card, I've got my pieces I need for my card, and I've also got 2 blank card bases that I'm just going to pop into my box up here where I keep such things. So it's not feeling as if you're wasting lots of cards, because the bits of card that are left are substantial enough to make card bases out of. So let us take this piece first. Now I've got all the measurements up on the description for these cards, so I might not remember all of the measurements off the top of my head, and it will depend where I've buried the scrap of paper that I'd scribbled them on as to whether I can remember them. But this piece of card is going to be 20 centimeters by 15 centimeters if, like me, you are in metric land. If you are using letter size cardstock, then it is 6 by 8, and you want your longest side, so your 20 centimeter or your 8-inch piece at the top, and you're simply going to score it at 2.5 centimeter or 1 inch increments. So all the way across, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inches. The maths is slightly harder on metric, but it is every 2.5. So it's 2, 5, 7.5, 10, 12.5, 15, and then 17.5, and that'll leave you a little 2 bit on the end. So I don't know how well you can see that. You've just come all the way across in those 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch increments, and then we're going to concertina it. So we've got lots of good mornings, some good evenings, depending on where you are in the world. I hope you have enjoyed the cards and the project so far. I have to say that I have not as yet got a chance to watch any catch up on the ones that were happening in the middle of the night for me here, but I shall do. But I'm sure they've all been fabulous. So we're going to start with a mountain fold. We're going to go mountain, valley, mountain, valley, mountain, valley, all the way across that piece of card. And let's just take my bone folder and give it a bit of a burnish on both sides. So now you've got this little concertina pit like this. This is going to form the base of your card base. This is going to be the bit that stands at the bottom. So we'll put that just to one side for a minute. And then this piece is 23 centimeters by 9. So I'm going to score it in half. If I remember right, I think it is 3.5 by 9 inches. So this I'm going to score at 11.5 centimeters. Obviously, if you are in Imperial land, you're going to score it at 4.5 inches. And that will give you a standy up bit like that. So those are the 2 basic elements of your card. We're going to play around with them a bit, but you've got the standy up bit and you've got the concertina bit that comes across the bottom. Now you obviously could just leave that like that and just have a standy up bit on a concertina card. That would look quite effective. You could move it to one side, you could move it to the other side. Yeah, you could do all sorts of things. You could start experimenting with the shapes. You could get your deckled circles out and have folded circles on the front there. You can do all sorts of things with this basic concertina base and a sticky up bit. But what we're going to do is we're going to take our sticky up bit and we are going to mark it on the bottom. So this is 9 centimeters. So the halfway mark on the bottom of there is 4.5 centimeters. And I'm just going to give that a little bit of a mark down there. If it is a 3.5 centimeter bit, then it is 1 3/4, isn't it? Is that my maths? Am I right? sure it is 1 3/4 inches. Yeah, so we have scored that, so we've now got 4.5 centimeters. So your halfway point on the bottom, so not the foldy end, but the other end to the foldy end. So the open end is where we've marked our center point. So what we're going to do is then we are going to place that center point in our track on our trimmer, and we're going to put this top corner also in the track on our trimmer, and we are going to cut that. We're making sort of an inverted triangle, and then we're going to take the top corner just here, that center point down there, put those in the track, and we're going to cut that. Hang on to these, we're going to need these. So what we have now is, as I say, this inverted, this upside down triangle that is going to sit on there. Now at this moment in time that looks incredibly flimsy, but it is going to get better, I promise. So that is the start of our card base. These bits here are going to be our pieces that are going to come out from the side. So you'll have two pieces, and you're looking for the right angles. So you'll have two pieces that will eventually come out that side, and you'll have two pieces that will eventually come out this side. And you know, obviously that isn't even or measured up, but you get the general idea. That is going to form the fan section of your card. So the pieces that have come off of the side of your triangle plus your triangle is what makes your card base. So let's pop those all together so that we don't lose them for a minute. I'm going to pop them inside my triangle. So now I've got some pecan pie pieces. So these are all so this is 1/2 centimetre shorter both ways than my front panel. So this is actually 8.5 centimetres by 11 centimetres. Yeah, or the Imperial equivalent. You will have that on the measurements at the top of this post. So we are going to mark halfway between 8.5 centimetres. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Don't get too worried about it, but we're actually going to want 4.25 centimetres. So we're going to take 4, we're going to come across 1, 2, and then sort of halfway between 2 and 3, we're going to make our pencil mark. So 4.25 centimetres. So go to halfway between your 4.2 and your 4.3. The sort of, you know, slight percentage of a millimetre that you might be out really isn't worth fretting about. But we're going to do exactly the same as we did with that first point. We're going to make ourselves this triangle. Is going to sit on the front here like that. And then I've also got, we'll do this big triangle first. I've also got a piece of DSP here. Now these we're not going to use in the same way as we have the black pieces. We're going to put those to one side, and I'm sure you'll find lots of really wonderful uses for oddments of card like that you can use on card fronts and in corners and all sorts of things. So this piece to go on the top is now 8 centimetres, so that's nice and easy to mark the halfway point. I'm going to make a mark at 4 centimetres, and check out your paper to make sure that you've got it the right way that you want it to go. I think that looks like the right way up. Obviously that's not catching very well on the camera, so remember you need your pencil point at the bottom, not at the top. Again, we're going to pop that top corner in our track, pop that pencil mark in our track, and cut that down. Again, we're not going to need to use these, but just simply swinging that around, you've suddenly got quite a nice fancy panel that you could put on a card front. So they're certainly not going to be wasted. And you'll be able to use those for all sorts of exciting things. Okay, so that's our piece of DSP that is going to come on the front there. So let's stick those down to start with, so we're not losing them on our table, or they're not floating off onto the floor or being stolen by borrowers, all of which are things that do happen, particularly on lives. And this morning my glue doesn't want to work, it's gone on strike. Come on, little glue. I can't see my little wire bit that I normally poke the end with. You know what's going to happen in a minute, it's going to splurge. It's a relatively new bottle, so it's not that it's run out. Excuse me while I dig about on my desk. Let's see if I can see my little bit of wire. Aha, there you are. It's just a little curl of wire that I can use to stick in the end of the bottle just to clear any little gaps. We've obviously got a little bit that has gunked up, and now I've got sticky fingers. Here we go. We're running now. Running too freely. Never mind. Right. So we'll pop that on there. We go it around so we've got just a bit of a border. This top bit has wiggled. This is where it's, thank goodness for wet glue. Right. If I've made that a bit big when I cut that square, but that's okay because the bottom bit is going to be covered anyway. So we have our main triangle piece. Let's come on to our smaller pieces now. Where have you gone? Smaller pieces. You go along, don't you, really beautifully. Everything is going to plan. You have everything cut and ready to go, and then suddenly, blink of an eye, it's all disappeared. Excuse me one moment while I search my desk for where all my other bits have gone that I had beautifully cut out and raring to go. We have our black pieces. We have our piece ready for a die cut. Well, that is very odd. I had cut paper and DSP and all sorts of things ready to go. And now it appears to have disappeared off the face of the earth, unless I'm staring at it somewhere. Bizarre. Right, okay, well, let's just cut ourselves a bit more card then. How does that happen? Has anybody ever found the answer to how it is that you can have things sitting on your desk all ready to go in a nice pile, and then all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, they've disappeared? Well, that bit of pecan pie that I put to one side, let's bring it back in. And let's cut ourselves some more mats. So the mat sizes that we need for the next size down is 4 centimeters. I need to cut one of these 4 centimeters by 11. And we're going to then take this and cut it from the top of there to the bottom of there. That is going to give us, if we bring in our pieces of card, that's going to give us a mat to go on there and a mat to go on there. Then we're going to need another one for our other 2 pieces. So we'll do it 4 centimeters by 11. Now, this is the point at which we're cutting this in cardstock. So obviously, cardstock, yes, I know, Jackie's borrowers will always come and help to mess up and take things from right under your nose. It just baffles me. It baffles me how I can go, oh, look, I'm all organised. I've got my paper cut. I've got it all ready to go. And then seconds later, it can have just disappeared off the face of the earth. But never mind. Let's go back to where we were. We've cut this one piece and we've cut that from top left to bottom right. Now, because this is cardstock, it doesn't matter which way round we have it. So we can use that, swing that round that way, and we've got our 2 pieces that are going to fit on 2 pieces of cardstock that are going to need to be that way round. The triangle needs to be that way round. As I say, with cardstock, it doesn't matter. I can do this one exactly the same, top left to bottom right. But if I'm using DSP and I want one specific side to be showing, and we'll have a look at this in a minute, I need to do one set that's top left to bottom right and another set that's top right to bottom left. So one needs to go that way, one needs to go that way. As I say, with cardstock, it really doesn't matter, but we'll do it anyway, just so that we're in the habit, so that when we come to do our DSP in a minute, we won't get it wrong. So then we've got 2 that are going that way and 2 that are going that way, which is what we want. Let's put our little bits of black back there quick before they too disappear into the ether, and we'll add our 4 bits of pecan pie with them. Okay, so that's that bit. Let's now get some paper. Now, I decided that I am going to use 2 different patterns of paper, here and here. You could have these so that they're all the same, but I have decided to use 2 different patterns of paper. So I'm going to need one that goes that way and one that goes that way on each of these 2 patterned papers, which means I am going to have to cut more paper than you would need to do if you were going to use all the same pattern. So I've put these on top of each other. I've layered them up, and I'm going to cut them at 3.5 centimeters. I'm going to give myself a 3.5 centimeter strip. Put that to one side, and then I'm going to swing them round, and I'm going to need to cut these to 10.5 centimeters. So all of your measurements are up on the description to the video. Let's put that to one side completely so we don't confuse ourselves, because we really don't need those. So now I've got 2 pieces in white and 2 pieces in the grey. Now this is where it is important that I do one from top left to bottom right, and one from top right to bottom left. So one slanting one way, one slanting the other. Let's turn that paper around so the words are the right way round. I'm sure it wouldn't be the last, the end of the earth if you got them upside down, but let's at least attempt. So this first pair, I've actually layered those BSPs on top of each other. I'm going to cut them in one go. So this first pair I've done from top left to bottom right. And I'm going to need to keep one pair. The other pair is going to be put to one side and can be played around with and made into something else beautiful. The other pair I'm going to take. Again, we'll make sure our words are the right way up. And this time, I'm going to cut this one. Get that back up. You can do these individually if you'd prefer. And to layer those up, and I'm going to cut those from top right to bottom left. Keep one pair, put the other pair to one side to be used for something else pretty. Right, okay. How are we doing? Those are the pieces will now appear from out of the ether because we've cut more. So I tried to save time by doing that, but it didn't happen. These are actually going to come this way. So I've actually probably turned my paper around the wrong way, haven't I? So thinking that I'd got my words the right way round, I've actually got them upside down. Remember that your fat bit is at the top and your narrow bit is at the bottom. So in attempting to get my words the right way round, I've actually got them the wrong way round. So remember that if you're going from your fat bit is at the top, so that is the way that you want your words to go. But I don't think anybody's going to really notice by the time we've finished whether or not our words are the right way or the wrong way. So we've got one pair that are going to be that colourway and another pair that one's going to go on there, that one's going to come on there. So another pair that are going to be in the other colourway in the white. So let's stick those together. Of course, you don't need to use liquid adhesive for this if you don't want to. You could use your tape runner. Or tape, double-sided tape, whatever works best for you. I think adhesives are a very personal thing. And what one person loves, somebody else really doesn't get on with. So your adhesive of choice. Be interesting to know what everybody's adhesive of choice is. What is your go-to? In an ideal world, would it be liquid adhesive like our Tombow? Would it be one of the tape runners? Oh, one of our stamping seals. Mine's looking very gluey, but it's lovely if you're doing quick and easy. No reason why you wouldn't be able to do quick and easy on these. Or are you much rather go for tear and tape? I use them all, but I have to say I think the liquid adhesive is my go-to, the one I use the most. Now, as you're putting these together, you can be slightly millimeters out on you know, these triangles, they might not all be even. But as you're putting them together, just remember that the side that's going to be on show is this straight edge just here. This is the bit that's going to be on show. So if you need to wiggle it over so that it's overlapping a bit this side or doesn't look quite so good that side, that doesn't matter. That's absolutely fine. This is the side that's on show. This bit will either be trimmed off or will be tucked away and unseen down this edge. So concentrate on getting this edge looking how you want it to look, and really don't worry about the other side. Yeah, I use different things. Depends what I'm doing. I often forget my stamping seals there, actually. And then when I remember it, I will go and use it, particularly if I'm whizzing through creating some cards. Took me a long time to sort of perfect my use of Tombow, as it was. It is, as I often say to people, sounds ridiculous, but a very sticky glue. And you just don't need very much of it at all. And the trick to it is to use as little as possible. Because otherwise you get really sticky fingers like I have. That's where I was battling with my glue to start with. And obviously I'm using black card, and black card, you pick up the fluffy fibres from it and get black fingers. I look like I haven't washed for a week. I promise you I had a shower this morning. So there are all our sections that are going to come down the back of our triangle. So this is where we're going to add these on, and this is where this suddenly becomes a nice solid stable card front. So let us just put some glue just down that edge, just down your slanty edge. And we're going to play with this and make sure that they're fairly even. What we want is, it is going to be longer. You are going to have a bit that dangles off the edge that we're going to chop off in a minute. But you need this edge of this card to meet with your point just there. You don't want it sticking out like this. You need it so that that point is meeting up with that square, with that point just there. And we're going to want them to be fairly similar down here and similar across there. So if you get your ruler out, it will give you some sort of an indication. So that's coming down just slightly, so 2.1 that is, and it's sticking out about 3.3. So if we put some glue on this, again down the slanty line, and about 2.1, I could perhaps make a little tiny little pencil mark just there. So it's coming down about that much, and then we want to come out, and yours will be different. Just get your first one how you want it, and then use that as a guide for the rest. So it's about 3.3. So that just gives you that even, and again, so that the side is matching up with that point down there. And then all you're going to do is take scissors. I'm going to grab my big scissors. We're going to chop off that excess. So there we have our first half a fan. And now we're going to do the same this side. So it's 2.1, wasn't it? So let's make ourselves a little mark. You don't have to be this precise if you don't want to. But let's make ourselves a little mark just there. Let's put ourselves some glue down this edge. So we know that we want that to come about there. And we want it to come outwards about 3.3. That's too much. Still a little bit too much. Smidge. Yeah, I think about there. So that side and that side are now even. Let's just squeeze that in a little bit so that's meeting at that bottom piece. Let's come down again, 2.1. You can just go, oh, I'm going to do it by eye. I'm not going to faff. And that's absolutely fine. With the glue down our edge. Make sure that that's lining up down there. Bring that out. Yeah, didn't think that looked right. About there, I think. It looks very wonky until you cut these bottom pieces off. That's the point at which it starts to suddenly look a bit more even. So there we have our nice fan. So we've got our different coloured papers coming around in a fan. And at this point, we're going to bring back in our piece on the bottom piece, our concertina piece. And we need to work out where we need to stick this so that it is central on this, and we need it to be nice and straight and upright. And this is where our grid paper comes in, or if you've got one of the new, if you've signed up and got yourself a glass mat, or as a demonstrator, you've purchased a glass mat, you'll have your nice lines on it that you're going to be able to use to work out where this needs to go. So I'm going to swing this round and I want to make a mark about 7.5 centimeters. That will be 3 inches. You're using Imperial, so we know that that's the center point at the bottom of our concertina. So now we want it all to be straight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my concertina so that it's coming along a straight line on my grid. Let's open this up. Let's pop that back bit underneath there. Now we want the center point of our card to be resting on the center point of our base. But we also want, let's move this out the way, we also want this top here to be level, and we can use our grid to make sure that that is level at the top there as well. So when we're happy with that, let's not move that bit, but let's just put, and you can see where I've used this diamond here, you can visualize where the rest is going to come, to put a good blob of Tombow in there. And let's give that a good press down. And then let's swing it over. And again, let's put a nice little diamond of, like a little heart there, of Tombow in there. And let's press down our back. Got a bit of a splurge of glue just there. Let's hold that down and give that a squeeze. So there you have your basic card base. This bottom bit sort of opens out, fans out. and then you've got this fan piece on the top. So obviously you can do that with all sorts of different papers from any of your paper packs, and then decide how you're going to decorate the top. Let's just find ourselves a little bit of basic white card. To create our border panel on the back, I actually cut myself a piece that was 8 by 10.5, so centimetre, a centimetre smaller each way than the front panel was originally. But we're going to then mark it at its centre point, about 4. Do the whole chop to one corner, chop to the other. Make ourselves a nice little triangle. We can then pop on the back. To write our greeting. Voila. So then just to decorate, obviously you can decorate it if you like, with die cuts and oh, you know how there's always that moment that you go, I know what I haven't done. I know what I haven't done. So this one is going to be slightly different than my first one. This is a don't do as I do, do as I say. You want a panel on your front there, look. Before you stick all this down, stick a panel on your front. So this is just your same measurements are on there. Your pecan pie bit was just 0.5 centimetre smaller each way than that front panel, so 2 centimetres by 14.5, and the paper was 1.5 centimetres by 14. So do that first. If I'd have got my pieces of card in front of me that I'd cut, I might have noticed that I hadn't have done that, but who knows where they've gone. We'll let that one go. So this one isn't going to have a nice gold panel on the front. Here's one with, here's one without. You make your decision. But yes, do put your panel on the front if you want one before you stick your fan piece on. Let's find some die cutting, shall we? We can do Facebook Lives, and I think a lot of the demonstrators on the stamp camp will say exactly the same. We can do the Facebook Lives till the cows come home. We get on the stamp camp lives, and it's just like in all the world falls to pieces. Things go missing. Technology plays us up. But it all adds to the entertainment. We're just creating lots and lots of bloopers, and one day we'll perhaps put them all together and make our fortune with our very own stamp camp blooper video. Right, so my first die cut, I have cut one long leafy bit out of Pecan Pie card, and what I did with this was I sort of chopped it in half and wrapped about here, so about this bit just here. I just took my scissors and I curved round so that leaf looked whole and didn't look like it had got a bit missing. And then so I've got then 2 pieces of foliage that I'm going to be able to use in the back. The other things that I die cut were 2 of these sort of slightly wider, larger leaves in gold foil. Let's do that. Move that to one side. I will post later and tell you where I found all the card and things that I cut, where it was hiding when I found it. When the mystery is solved. So there's one. Let's do ourselves another one. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. This one does sometimes take a bit of wiggling to get it out from the cardstock. This was another off piece from when I was cutting my 2 pieces for my card base. This was another piece that was left over. So that's perfect for die cutting these smaller leaves from. Excuse me, I could feel that sneeze coming. What? And 2. Put that to one side. So we've got our foliage. I've also, you might see, or notice on here, got a little bit of roughly cut out one of these flowers from one of the sheets of DSP. So I am going to use this on the front as well. So let's fussy cut that. There's a few flowers and things on the DSP that you can chop into and use on your card fronts. And I know that some of the samples that you've got in your make and take kits and things have done exactly that. And there's also the little flower image in the stamp set that you can be stamping and die cutting. This is rather interesting, this sort of daffodil image. Nice for, we're heading into springtime here. Daffodils are certainly starting to poke their heads up in gardens, getting ready to bloom. So it felt an appropriate time to have a daffodil. Sneaking up towards St. David's Day for anybody Welsh who celebrates St. David's Day. So there we are, we've fussy cut that little flower. Let's get rid of our little bits that we don't need. Only other thing we want on the front is the sentiment. And I have noticed that I am rather fond of this "Today is all about you, happy birthday." And I've used it on all 3 of the cards. So the one that I haven't done today, that I was going to do, that I'll do on a blog post, says "Today is all about you," as does you want in just in your bundle. So obviously that's my go-to sentiment out of this set. And I think this sort of fancy fold card is the sort of card that you would make for somebody. Might be quite nice for an anniversary, actually, if you've got somebody that was celebrating a golden wedding anniversary. That would be rather lovely, but then you'd need to find a different sentiment, but there's no reason why you can't do that. So today is all about you. I am going to take my big scissors. These aren't Stampin' Up scissors, but when it comes to trimming things down, I'm not very good at trimming these to size with my trimmer. I tend to prefer to go with large scissors. but you do you. Whatever works best for you is the way to do it. So today is all about you. Happy birthday. And I'm just going to snip across a corner that way, snip across a corner that way, and I am going to back this. Let's see. Oh, not quite big enough. That was the strip out of left over from cutting down my cardstock. I'm sure it will come in useful for something, but we can get this on here, and we'll just put that on there. Like that. In an ideal world, you'd leave that just to that glue to grab and harden off before you snip, because otherwise it might move slightly. And then let's take a bit of gold foil. So the only other thing I'm going to need as I build these pieces up on the front of my card is a nice bow of gold thread. So I did go with gold thread rather than the faux leathery gold trim that's in the suite, but you can of course use that if you would like to. I just thought it needed to be something slightly thinner. Oh, sticky fingers. Nice and tight. Okay. That is the key to working with this thread, is to keep pulling it nice and tight. Just trim that off of there. Right. Let's do a little bit of building on our card front. So we'll have our pecan pie trim on this piece just here. To take some my Tombow just down the centre of there. I'm going to pop this one in first. You can hear the pitter-patter feet of the dog coming to join us. I think last time we had a stamp camp, we'd only just brought her home to live with us. She's now been here since last October, and I can hear her having a bit of a chunter behind me. Like, are you still on that live? Why are you not here paying me attention? Right, I'm going to pop this banner piece across here, and I'm actually going to use my black dimensionals. Anybody else have black dimensionals and forget that they've got them? I'm just going to put them across the centre because I'm going to tuck more foliage in round and about, so I don't want them right up to the edge. I've just put a layer of 4 across the middle there. It's quite stiff anyway, this sentiment, because it's got the gold foil on. So let's have that coming across there. Let's make that a little less wonky. Let's bring in these pieces. I'm going to take my black foliage. Let's just put some Tombow on the end here. Have this coming out. On my other one, I had it tucking more downwards, but then I've got gold foil on that one. So I think I'll have this one sticking up a little bit because I don't have gold foil. Otherwise, this bit of black will get lost. Ooh, still got a little bit. that needs to come out. Chicken. That's it. There's our black foliage. Let's bring in our gold. Again, I'm just going to put some glue on the edges. Leave the top bits quite free flowing. And over the piece. Come in here. And then I'm going to say, please don't tell me that I've lost my flower. I'm going to bring in my flower. Let's bring in my bow and get a glue dot. I'm going to pick up a glue dot on the back of that bow. I have that coming in just here. Let's just run that through my fingers and curl it back up the other way a little bit. And then we've got our daffodil just here. I'm going to put some mini dimensionals on the back of there, sort of leaving an area in the middle where that knot in the middle of that bow can sit. We'll have a play with this so that the flower doesn't obscure the writing, but it overlaps it a little bit, a bit like that, to come in the center there. And we've got our tails on our bow coming up either side. Let's trim those off a little bit, like that. And then last but not least, she says, oh yes, here they are. I was going to say, please don't tell me they. So here's all the pieces of paper and card that I cut earlier. As I picked these up, they were underneath. Oh dear. You see, at least it proves that I wasn't telling you fibs when I said that I had cut them. I had cut them. They were there. They were hiding underneath my dots. So let's take some of our cork dots and then put one up here and put one up here, and then let's add one on the bottom here on that point. Went a little wonky, didn't it? Can we just ease him off and ease him over a little bit? Yes, we can. Right. I'm glad I found all those bits of card. I was beginning to think I was having a senior moment, a menopausal moment, and that I perhaps hadn't cut them. I'd only thought I'd cut them. But no, they are there. So the only real senior menopausal moment we've had in the entire video is that I've forgotten to put my strip in there. But obviously I did it on purpose to give you an alternative version. You can either have it with the foil on the bottom, or you can have it without, whichever you prefer. And Ruby the dog is grumbling behind me. Yes, I'm not sure whether that means she prefers it with or without, whether she's saying, oh, for goodness sake, mother, only you could do that. I'm not sure. But those are your two fan fold cards. So the one I'd created previously and the one I'd just created. She is making the most extraordinary noises behind us. I hope you have enjoyed those, and I hope that you will have a go at making a fan fold card. It will sit up like this on the mantelpiece. It's been lovely to have you joining me as I scrabble around finding things that I've lost. Yeah, you can't see her. She's down right, literally right behind me, having a good old moan. I promise you, there she is. Promise you, it is not my tummy. It's not that near lunchtime. I will be back later with the afternoon tea. Thank you, Ruby, for that view. That's just what we needed. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy making all of your cards and your projects. And I really look forward to being with you again later. So have fun.